Hello, and welcome to the August 2025 edition of the Economic Update by Kingdom Focus Financial. Today we have Michael Smith, Chuck Atzweiler, and myself, Derek Malden. Take it away.
Hey, thanks, Derek, and welcome, everybody. Glad to have you here joining us this month. I am super excited about what we have to talk about today. And before we dive into that, let's talk about where we are in our year. So this is August, right? We're halfway through the year plus some. We're getting ready to wrap up summer. Road construction season is well underway here in Central PA, where we're taping this from. And we're already talking about back to school. So for some of you, I know that's a big deal, and I wish everyone the best. But before we get there, I want to pump up the energy a little bit, figuratively and literally, because this month we are going to talk about something that impacts every single one of you. And that is in tune with our power theme, the E for electrification. I even wore my bright electrified yellow shirt just for this month's discussion. And hopefully you'll find a little humor in that. But Chuck, I know you're here and I know you've got a lot packed in, so I'm going to throw it over to you here pretty quickly. Give us your thoughts on how the electrification in our society today is really starting to impact how we're investing and also how people's lives are affected by that.
Most certainly, Michael, and thank you. Great to be with both you and Derek, as always. And if you take a step back and you just think of the United States, we as a country, as a people, we're greatly blessed. We've been blessed with, from a standpoint of natural resources, where we have had an ample supply of electricity, power, really over the last 25 years, actually greater, Michael, the supply than the demand. That is going to change. There's an inflection point here, really for the first time in several decades. We actually measure supply and demand by something we call terawatts of power. And in the year 2026, we will eclipse the supply with the demand. Now, here's the key, Michael. That is going to grow the demand by 55%. So we have a supply of about 3.8 terawatts. By 2040, the demand is going to be 5.9 terawatts. So just put that in perspective. So what is the cause of this? I think is probably the number one question I would have. And if you look at some of the actual initiatives that are forthcoming in society, just think of data cloud storage centers. They're popping up all over the country. They need power, electricity, to be able to function. Tack on top of that artificial intelligence, which we're going to get into. What about the reindustrialization and the manufacturing boom that's happening in the United States? We've talked about reshoring ad nauseum, and that is a tremendous tailwind actually to the U.S. economy. But what comes with that is the need, again, for electricity, i.e. power. Mobility. Think about, if you will, autonomous driving vehicles and the need for power is going to accompany that initiative. And then just think of everything that we do, that we buy, that we touch in your households has a memory chip in it. I went to buy a lamp, a desk lamp, and of course, I really couldn't find the conventional one. This one actually has a computer chip in it where I can program it to go off and on. I can change the hue of the tinting of the actual light bulb itself. It's just incredible. So we call this the electrification of everything, including digital assets. So the actual need for power is here. And then it begs the question, so how does that extrapolate to investment opportunities? And I think that probably our listeners, our clients, our investors would most want to focus on that component. So if you think about it, we have what I'll call three ways in which we can identify kind of the power space, if you will. So let's call it before the meter. Let's then transfer to at the meter, and then we'll move to after the meter. So just kind of put on the hat of a utility operator. What's before the meter? Well, that's generating power. No better place, Michael, to speak to this than the central PA area, maybe the greater Harrisburg area in specifics, with the recommissioning of 3 Mile Island into a small scale nuclear power plant.
Yeah.
Don't need to have, if that occurs, those big, massive concrete cooling towers, right, with the steam that comes out. It kind of creates that ominous look to it. But address other types of power generated by water, generated by natural gas, by oil, by coal. All those initiatives happen before the meter. It's basically taking a source of energy and creating electricity. So what then happens? Well, that happens at the utility operator place of development. It then is transferred, if you will, to the user. So think about those massive transmission and towers that are across our great country. If you've ever driven across the land, you'll see them everywhere. They sit in concrete to be stabilized. They're made of steel. There's copper wiring that ultimately transfers electricity. Did you know, Michael, that 60% of the transmission lines across the United States exceed their life expectancy? They have to be replaced. They have to be increased. So if you think about that, that's what brings the electricity to the meter. So here's what we've done. We've created electrical power, right, through an energy source. We then transferred it to the end user. Maybe let's just use a factory, Michael, kind of as an example here. I think that's probably the best one for, again, our investors to kind of grasp. So here you are, and you build a new factory, or maybe you upgrade a factory, and you want to create the most efficient way to use that energy and transfer it throughout your facility. So this is what we call at the meter. So at the meter, we're going to have a medium voltage transfer apparatus that creates the ability to move it throughout the factory. There's companies who make those. There's companies who make the meters and the dials. There's companies that actually optimize through basically consulting services, solution services, and charge a fee to let companies know this is how you can optimize the power as best as possible. So that's at the meter. After the meter very simply means, okay, you're now the company. And how are you going to, within inside that business, be able to then use that energy as best you can to develop whatever product or whatever service you're creating? So there are tremendous opportunities, Michael. Here's one more I'll throw out at you here, where I pass it back to you, is the U.S. grid is actually 40 years old. And even outside of this power initiative where we need more of it, the modernization of the grid is essential to actually keep things at the status quo, let alone actually an increase. And the last one here is the reindustrialization of the United States. By 2050, 80% of all energy will come to us by the form of electricity. So we got tremendous investment opportunities here, Michael, that I think are going to lever what is before us, a great need to increase the power in our country over the next several decades.
Yeah, and Chuck, I'll jump in there. I mean,
Yeah.
excellent stuff, and I think people may be getting the picture of where this integrates in everyday life. We're way beyond just turn the light switch, electricity providing, access to places. It powers a lot of stuff that we take for granted on a day-to-day basis. But it all boils down to the simple market concept of supply and demand. We easily relate that to goods that we can hold or food we can buy. But it also applies in services, right? And so as AI has driven a lot of changes, as our need for computer equipment and ease of life technology things continues to grow, we have to get that power from somewhere. And I think there has been a debate over the last decade of power industries, right? Solar versus wind versus coal and water. And I think people are missing the boat on that. It's not going to be a one or other. I think to meet the demand, there's a space of the electrical market. All of them will be, and they're just all vying for their share, right? Of which piece they're going to have.
Said.
And so diversification, even at the core level, no one industry is going to dominate that market, but there will be companies that come and go in each of those segments that are vying for space, just like there are things vying for space on the grocery shelf. They're doing that in the electrical world. And yeah, you hit home with 3 Mile Island. Lots of history, lots of energy, but we are seeing this happen all over the country, right? It is cheaper and quicker for companies who need large power sources to build their components, to run their components, to take factories and facilities that have been let sit and refurbish them and get them into the market than to build brand new. Now, build brand new is going to happen, but that's a 5-10 year type of venture in a lot of situations. And so they've got to meet this demand quickly. And so there's a lot of opportunity all along that cycle. And you're going to start to see that in our portfolios. And I think it's also going to help with jobs, right? With this demand and the fact that we have infrastructure, but that infrastructure is old. Think about road construction for vehicles. We see it all over. I just talked about it. We got orange cones sitting right out here on the main drag to our office, right? And boy, isn't that fun. But when we think about that in how power gets in places, we're going to need a lot of upgrades in doing that. And so, yeah, I'm super excited about this. This is going to drive investment opportunity for a while into the future, and certainly we'll be building that in.
In a society with all the electric that we're used to having, the alternative is that it doesn't get upgraded. And then you've got outages or situations where you're told like, hey, lower your AC during this time, or there's going to be outages, that sort of stuff. And I don't think any companies want that to happen. So I think this is going to happen very fast. And you think about all the AI technology is built on electrical use. The chips required to run all of the AI technology require what? Electricity, and a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Guys, I got 2 more fun facts here for you.
All right,
because
go for
Derek and Michael mentioned it. So, number 1, you just mentioned AI. Think about this. A simple ChatGPT query requires 2.9 watt hours of electricity, where a Google search 0.3. That's over 7x more. Here's the big one. The potential supply gap by 2030, if we don't do anything, is going to be 40 gigawatts. What's a gigawatt? 1 gigawatt is enough to power the average size home 1 million times over for nearly a year. That's the supply gap by 2030. These are great opportunities for investments. And I love what you said, Derek. It's going to happen sooner than later.
Absolutely. So, and it's in everything. It's in our vehicles, our homes, our businesses. It's amazing what's coming. So
yes, it is.
And we want all of you that are listening. We want you to be able to take advantage of that opportunity in doing that. Chuck, anything else you want to throw at us today? Or are we good for this month?
I think we covered it pretty well, Michael. Thanks for offering. My goodness, it was great to be with you guys as always.
Well, then in the spirit of electrification, we're going to wrap up and let everybody go back to staying in front of your ACs for the rest of this month, because it's hot outside here and we're wrapping up summer. Keep that in mind, though. Every time you open that fridge to get that cool beverage, or every time you flip on that fan to cool your body off, you're using up electricity. Are you invested in it, right? So you'll hear us talk more about that. I want to thank you, as always, for being here. I hope your summer has gone well. And I hope that as we move into the fall season, it's my favorite time of the year coming up for multiple reasons, but I hope that the transition to school and work goes well for all of you. As always, if you like this content, just hit that subscribe button and then go tell 5 other people to come watch our video and learn a little bit more about how we're managing investments for God's glory. I hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.